Gale White, a model with a huge online following, had been making a living for years by posting her revealing photos on a popular website. The young woman always assured her fans that she was happy in her relationship with her boyfriend, but behind the idealistic facade lurked a horrifying reality that eventually came to light. This terrible event took place in 2022 in the city of Bristol, located in southwest England. Bristol is a port city with a population of over 400,000 people, the only major urban center in the country where the per capita welfare level exceeds the national average. It was here in March 2000 that Bradley Lewis was born. He grew up in a loving and close-knit family, where his parents, Steve and Rachel Lewis, were honest and decent people who always put family first. Bradley grew into a cheerful and friendly young man. Like many English kids, he was an avid football fan from a young age. During his school years at St. Stephen's, Bradley played for the local football team. The boy had many friends and acquaintances. When Bradley became a teenager, he started going to parties. At age 14, fate brought Bradley together with 15-year-old Gale White. The young couple quickly grew close and realized they had fallen in love. Despite both being attractive, their personalities were quite different. Unlike Bradley, Abby was not as kind and welcoming, which was partly due to her difficult childhood. When the girl was just 2, her parents began arguing frequently, with the fights almost always escalating to physical. 2 years later, when Abby turned 4, her parents divorced. Her mother took custody of her daughter and soon found a new man. The stepfather turned out to be much worse than Abby's biological father, beating not only his wife but also little Abby. Soon after, the mother decided it would be better for her daughter to go live with her grandparents. At school, Abby was a problem child, with teachers constantly reprimanding her for bad behavior. The girl had poor academic performance and was even expelled from school several times. It is known that at age 13, Abby consulted a psychiatrist who diagnosed her with certain psychological and emotional disorders. Despite being prescribed antidepressants, the girl's life never improved. At 15, Abby started dating Bradley Lewis. As the years passed, the young man finished school, got vocational training, and found a job as a floor layer. Abby, on the other hand, never worked and didn't even try to find steady employment. Instead, the girl began to earn a decent income on the OnlyFans website. OnlyFans is a platform where creators can share any content with their subscribers. While the service can be used for a variety of purposes, it has a dubious reputation, as it is mostly used by models posting revealing photos to attract fans from around the world. It's not hard to guess what kind of content Abby chose. Under the pseudonym Mitzi, she began posting racy photos, calling herself a fake Barbie. The girl's fan base grew rapidly, as did her earnings. In the first year alone, Abby managed to make £50,000 sterling, a little over $60,000, but the triumph was short-lived. At the start of her second year on OnlyFans, Abby's earnings dropped significantly. More and more models were appearing on the site, competing with the fake Barbie. Soon the girl lost about 75% of her subscribers, and her annual income amounted to only £12,000, approximately $15,000. It should be noted that by that time, Abby and Bradley already had 4 children. The names, genders and ages of the couple's offspring are kept secret. It is only known that one child was fathered by another man, not Bradley. The family lived in a small house. Bradley worked hard to provide a decent life for Abby and the kids. The young man's parents always supported the young family, actively helping to care for their grandchildren. Abby often posted photos showing herself with Bradley, but these idyllic images did not reflect the real state of affairs. The couple's relationship was never smooth. Abby became addicted to illicit substances and often came home heavily drunk. Although the girl denied having a serious addiction, she complained to loved ones that Bradley was constantly controlling her and treating her cruelly. According to Abby, he also cheated on her regularly. However, those around them knew that in fact the opposite was true. It was Abby who was unfaithful and had even given birth to a child by another man. The girl constantly lied to everyone and complained about her boyfriend. Friends said the couple had a toxic relationship. Abby considered Bradley her property. His pals warned the young man that his girlfriend was a complete psychopath and that he should run away from her. Bradley's mother disliked Abby, believing that she treated her son rudely and cruelly. The woman felt Bradley deserved to be treated better. The constant scandals led to the involvement of social services. Abby was forbidden to live with Bradley or approach him. The young man moved in with his parents. But Abby still didn't trust him. She kept calling incessantly, trying to control Bradley, forcing him to come back home and spend nights with her. Despite the warnings, he agreed and neglected safety measures. Meanwhile, Abby was active on social media. She made short TikTok videos portraying herself as a victim, a betrayed pregnant mother. We shouldn't forget that virtual reality often misleads people. Abby took advantage of this, publicly humiliating Bradley, painting him as a real monster. In early March 2022, the girl sent a voice message to her friend. Abby said, "I don't believe Bradley, he never tells me the truth. I have to interrogate him all night to get the truth out of him, but he keeps lying. Bradley says I need psychological help, and people around me are warning that one of us will end up dead. That's how it is. I believe I'm capable of killing. And I could end up in prison." On March 19, 2022, another big fight broke out between Bradley and Abby, during which the girl stabbed the young man directly in the arm. The wound turned out to be serious. Bradley was forced to immediately seek medical help. When the doctor asked what happened, Bradley said he was injured at work. He didn't want Abby to have problems with the police, so he deliberately lied. After this unpleasant incident, Bradley decided it was time to end the relationship with Abby, even though they had 3 children together. However, he continued to communicate with the girl and again ignored the recommendations of social services. 6 days passed. On Thursday, March 25, at 8 p.m., a terrible scream was heard from the house where the White Lewis family lived. It was Abby. She was begging for help and asking for an urgent call to the emergency services. A neighbor heard the girl's cries. The woman rushed to help and learned from Abby that her boyfriend Bradley wasn't breathing. After that, the neighbor entered the White Lewis home and saw a terrible scene. There were bloodstains in the hallway, living room, and everywhere. Bradley was in the kitchen. The young man was lying on his back, unconscious. The neighbor saw a bloody knife on the radiator. Frightened, she immediately called the police. Then the neighbor's husband ran up, who also witnessed this horrific scene. Abby was at home. Fortunately, at that moment their children were visiting Bradley's parents. When the police and ambulance arrived, the medics tried to help the victim. There were blood stains everywhere on the ground floor of the house. The police found a shirt with a mop and several other items with blood on them. Abby acted as if she was really scared. The girl claimed that she had a fight with Bradley and he stabbed himself in protest. The officers didn't believe her, but still allowed her to go to the hospital with Bradley, who was unconscious. The young man was urgently sent for surgery, but the doctors were powerless. 22-year-old Bradley had lost a lot of blood. At 1:30 a.m. on March 26, he died. The autopsy showed that the cause of death was a single stab wound to the chest. The knife hit right in the heart. When the parents learned about their son's death, their world fell apart. Now it only remained to find out what really happened in the White Lewis house and who was to blame for the young man's death. Friends and those close to the couple said that in recent times, relations between Bradley and Abby had been extremely tense, and a friend of the deceased reported that Bradley had recently confessed to him that he had a new girlfriend. Obviously, this could have really angered Abby. The police began to suspect her of murder. They arrested the 23-year-old girl and took her into custody. During the first interrogation, Abby said that she and Bradley had a fight that evening, and the young man threatened to stab himself. So she snatched the knife from him to throw it out into the street. She ran down the corridor to the door, but Bradley caught up with her. According to Abby, he grabbed her by the wrist and plunged the knife straight into his chest. Investigators asked Abby numerous questions, but the girl refused to answer them. Her version of events seemed too absurd to the police, so, as before, no one believed Abby. After spending 2 months behind bars, she finally admitted her guilt in involuntary manslaughter. But here's what really happened on March 25. After Abby seriously injured Bradley's arm on March 19, he decided to end their relationship. On March 25, the young man invited the girl to meet in the park and informed her of the breakup. Abby reacted extremely negatively to the news. At 5 p.m., the couple, along with their friends Ryan and Louise, went to one of the local bars. An hour later, the group moved to another bar, where they continued their leisure. According to eyewitnesses, while at the bar, Abby used and didn't control her alcohol intake at all. The girl was in a bad mood, rude to the staff and patrons of the establishment, not mincing words. At some point, Bradley and Ryan went to the restroom. There, Bradley, crying, confessed to his friend that he wanted to get as far away from Abby as possible. But he was afraid to do so because the girl had threatened to harm herself. While the guys were in the restroom, Abby was rude to one of the bar patrons and even hit a stranger in the face. In response, the man pushed the girl so hard that she fell to the floor. A friend helped Abby up and led her aside. When Bradley and his buddy returned to the table, the angry Abby grabbed a glass of cocktail and threw its contents in the young man's face. The girl began to publicly humiliate Bradley, reproaching him for not standing up for her. Ryan tried to calm Abby down and shame her, but in response, she spat in his face. At 7:50 p.m., Bradley and Abby got into the car of their old pal Alfie, whom they had met at the bar. The man drove the couple home. According to him, Bradley and Abby argued the whole way. Upon reaching the house, the girl immediately jumped out of the car and quickly headed inside. Bradley sat in the car for a few more minutes, saying goodbye to his friend. The last thing he said was, "I'm going to die when I get home." Alfie felt uneasy, because everything that was happening seemed strange and eerie to him. He left Bradley his phone number in case he needed help. The friends said goodbye, and Alfie drove away. Entering the house, Bradley ran into Abby, who was standing with a knife in her hand. During an argument, the enraged girl stabbed the blade into the young man. Within just 20 minutes, the neighbor was already calling the rescue service. Examining Bradley's cell phone, detectives found a huge number of messages from Abby. Starting from the first months of 2022, the girl had sent him hundreds of threats. The content of the messages was so violent that I will refrain from quoting any of them. Several psychiatrists spoke with Abby before the trial. They concluded that the girl suffered from borderline personality disorder and was absolutely unable to control her anger, being emotionally unstable. It also turned out that just a few days before the tragedy, Abby had experienced severe stress. She had to have an abortion, and at the same time, she learned from friends about Bradley's new relationship on the side. Psychiatrists confirmed that Abby showed no signs of delusions, hallucinations, or other symptoms of psychosis. The jury deliberated for 12 hours before unanimously reaching a verdict. 23-year-old Abby Gale White was found guilty of murder. The court sentenced her to life imprisonment with the right to parole after 18 years. Thus, the girl will not be able to go free until at least 2040. Bradley's father admitted that losing his son was the greatest tragedy of his life. The man had never experienced so much suffering, sadness, and heartache. Bradley's mother said that a part of her world had been destroyed and that she would carry this loss in her heart until her dying day. It is known that custody of Abby and Bradley's children was taken by the deceased young man's parents. Hundreds of concerned citizens who wanted to support the Lewis family attended Bradley's funeral. In May 2022, the young man's body was cremated, and later the football club he played for held a friendly match. Hundreds of people agreed to come to the game. The players expressed their condolences to the relatives of the deceased and gave part of the proceeds from the match, about £7,000, to Lewis's parents. The rest of the money was transferred to a charity that provides psychological assistance to men. Bradley's former coach, who had trained him since childhood, said that the young man had always been kind and decent. The coach emphasized that he was saying this not because it was the proper thing to say, but because in this case it was the absolute truth. The man warmly recalled not only his ward, but also his parents, honest people who were pleasant to deal with. As for Abby, she lost everything she had. Her beloved, her family, her children, her home. She was deprived of that which many would give their lives for. Thank you for watching this story. Write your thoughts about it in the comments. Don't miss the future videos, subscribe and like the channel. Take care of yourself and people you love.